Hello, hi, my name is MomoMorgana, and welcome back to the Sims 4 Ultimate Decades Challenge recap. So this is a recap of year 1350 through 1375, and quite a lot has happened. This is our family tree, which will actually be linked down below. The family tree will be linked in all the episodes from this point going forward, now that I'm using a good and stable family tree. I've switched through 3 different trees, which is why this video took a little longer to come out than usual. But let's just get into it. I will say right now, I'm not going to go over the cousins, like the grown cousins and their side households. Just because I didn't really add their children or what they've been up to the family tree, just to save myself a little bit of time and headache because I'm not really keeping up with them. So if you want to know what's going on with the side household and their dramas and stuff, I'll go over it briefly, but I'd actually recommend watching the side household updates. They come out once every 5 years, so you can keep up. There's a previous one that came out not too long ago. So yeah, that being said, let's get into it. I don't know. I'm not going in order of timeline. I think I'm going to go sim by sim because that's how I remember it, because I don't feel like pulling out my spreadsheet right now and trying to figure out what's going on. So Alice has been in every single timeline, and this is the last one she'll be in because she actually passed away during that time period. I actually do need to go to my spreadsheet, so I said all that just to end up needing to come right back here. Alice passed away back in 1358 at age 57 as an elder, our first ever sim to make it to adulthood and pass away as an elder peacefully. So I don't know, I feel like she definitely deserved that end. So shout out to Alice. She left behind quite a legacy, so hopefully the family can live up to it. But if you've been keeping up with the series, you know that there's been some ups and downs with that. So let's start with our main household. So when she died, I would say that she left behind her son Amir, but Amir and his heir Humphrey died on the same day as their mother. So that was my current heir and the next heir passed away on the same day, which was really, really unfortunate. We lost some kids. I can't remember when the plague was. Was the plague during this time period? I legitimately cannot remember. Black Plague 1348. No, that was right before. That was in the previous recap. So, Amir and Humphrey both died on the same day. Amir died at age 30, which is really interesting because, well, he did a lot of bad. Why is the... No. Oh, why is my, Why are you going through Denise? You're not the heir. Okay, I'll fix that in a moment. But, Amir did so much. He killed his younger sister, sacrificed her and everything, tried to avoid death at age 30. And long story short, he could not avoid that fate. And he died on his 30th birthday, just like all the other men before him, which is kind of tragic. So he left behind Mary, his wife. They were an arranged marriage, our first and only arranged marriage so far, and left behind Mary and their children. Well, their surviving children. The children who survived were Grogo, because we lost Leonard during the plague. Humphrey died the same day as his father, or the same year, quote unquote. Grogo was left behind along with his twin sister Sybil, who is no longer alive. She died when they turned into teenagers, so she died at age 13. And Amis, and their youngest sister Denise, who all of them have their own good bit of drama going on, so let's just jump right into it. So, Amir, let's go through Grogo first. Grogo essentially had to immediately get married as soon as he turned into a teenager. He fell in love with this girl named Annabelle, who is a spellcaster alien hybrid. So she has some secrets of her own. She's actually an orphan, so she doesn't know her parents or anything like that. Of course, my phone would go off right now. But she doesn't know her parents or anything like that, and is really, really scared of someone finding out that she's a hybrid. And she's actually kept it from the entire family. The only ones who knows are, of course, her children. So I've used this symbol as to mark alien witch hybrids, and these are just aliens, and then these are just alien hybrids. So we'll get to the hybrids in a moment. But together they had 3 children, well, 4. They lost 1. Stephen, Agnes, and her twin brother Godfrey, who passed away at birth. and their youngest daughter, Albretta. So for now, Stephen is the heir, but considering he's the only male child of Grogo, and Grogo has no brothers, no living brothers at least, if something happens to Stephen, the main line will then go to Amir's brother Stephen, who younger Stephen is named after. And Stephen is old as hell, to be honest, so it would actually go to his eldest son, Osbert. So there's a lot hanging on Stephen right now, so he actually ages up into a teenager in a couple of episodes, so we'll see if he survives or not. I'm rooting for him for real because I want the main line to stay the main line. If you want to know more about what Stephen's going on, his personality and everything, I mean, if you're watching the recap, you probably know, but if not, we get into it in the series. Just go back a few episodes. Sybil was actually Grogo's twin sister and the first alien hybrid we've had in the family. She and her sister Amis were both born human with alien traits, so they don't even get any of the cool abilities or anything that aliens get. They're humans with blue skin, so they had a bit of a struggle going around the village and trying to make friends. Amis struggled a lot more than Sybil, but yeah, Sybil unfortunately passed away on their 13th birthday. On her and her twin brother Grogo's 13th birthday. Why did you pass away, Sybil? Yeah, she has some heart problems, and she passed away unexpectedly. So, I was so sad about Sybil's death. She was gonna be so pretty. Well, she was already so pretty, but I was really excited to see her grow up. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. Amis is the most interesting of the Sims, and was actually Amir's favorite child, right behind Humphrey, I guess. Humphrey was only the favorite just because he was heir, so he was favored by default. But as we all know, Humphrey was talentless, and he was gay as well, so he was gonna have quite a few different struggles. And Amir loved Amis so much more than all his other children. So, I hate to admit it, but if Amis was a boy, he already loved the mess out of her, and she's already like his girl. But if Amis was a boy, she would be an amazing head of household. I'm not gonna lie. Amir didn't do a bad job. He was just scary, right? Because you didn't really know what he was going to do or what he was willing to risk to do it. And Amis kind of took that to heart, and that became some of her core personality traits as well. But Amis struggled living throughout the village as a hybrid. She had this blue skin, especially once her sister passed away. She was a child when her sister passed away, so she was the only blue skin individual in the entire village, and a lot of the human villagers just had a big issue with her. They spread rumors that she was a fae, that she was a changeling, that like her existence within the village was gonna mark some great evil or something like that. So she just threw herself into her knight's career, and she desperately wanted to find some type of love, right? Her mother, Mary, kind of did her best to be there for her, but Mary's best was not really what Amis needed. Amis definitely needed someone stronger like her father to actually protect her. Mary wasn't protecting her. She was just telling her to essentially live with it or it'd get better, blah, 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 which is not at all what Amis needed, because Amis was essentially being bullied by the entire village. Like she was going through it for real. But eventually she married a handsome young witch named Thomas. And Thomas is actually, if you've been keeping up with the series, Thomas's grandmother had a best friend / eventual guardian named Mary. And not the Mary that's married to Amir, but that Mary has kids and whatnot, but this is one of her grandsons. So I think it's really funny that Mary and Alice, their bloodlines finally mixed together way down the line. And yeah, these two turned out to be soulmates, which is super cute. Amis absolutely went through it. She got murdered. She got embarrassed multiple times. Her first time trying to find a husband. Two of the candidates fell in love with each other. It was crazy. The second time, another candidate killed her for some reason, but she was revived by Thomas's mother, who is now her mother-in-law, and it was just a lot. It was just a lot. So luckily now everything's rather peaceful. She lives with Thomas's family. So she's surrounded by people who love and accept her because his family's full of witches, so they understand what it's like to kind of live a secret life and just be a little bit afraid of how humans will react, because Henford on Bagley has a bit of a history of burning witches. So, and they're the only witch family. Well, I think the biggest witch family and the only one. But anyways, together so far, they've had that's not 5, that's 6. Together so far, they've had 6 children, and she's currently pregnant. She'll give birth in the next actual episode. But of their 6 children, 4 are still alive: Nicola, Marley, Leonardo, and Rodrigo. And Rodrigo is the only Sim who was born without magical abilities. So I think that's interesting. He's human like his mother and just human passing, right? Amice's issue is that she's human who's not human passing, and she doesn't even get the alien abilities, right? So that sucks for her. And that's essentially what they've got going on. Everyone is fine and alive so far, besides the children who are not. They lost Bonnie and Giancarlo. Next up, we have Denise, who is the most dramatic of the siblings, which once again, kind of Mary's fault, but also kind of Denise being a spoiled little brat. A mix of both, right? Denise is the youngest. She's just aged up into her teenager years, and she is an actual alien, a full-blooded alien, unlike her hybrid sisters. So she didn't really have to go through any of the things her sisters went through, but she did kind of grow up and watch and see how they were being treated and everything like that. And yeah, so she was around during the fall of the household. The household went from being rich gentry to barely having money to survive. And so Mary came up with the solution that they would have to sell the house. At this point, it was just Mary, Annabelle, and Denise, who were the eldest in the households. Grogo at this point had passed away. Grogo passed away on his 20th birthday as a young adult, leaving behind his children and wife. And they were all just kind of struggling, and Denise did not want to live that type of lifestyle. She thought it was completely unfair. She is kind of a little bit lazy and just wanted to live a lifestyle where she could live comfortably without having to do a whole bunch of hard work. She didn't want to get married or anything like that. So she actually wanted to become a mistress of somebody and just live comfortably there, which eventually ended up happening. So Denise, as we know, there was an accident where somehow or another, some form of magical fire just randomly started and burned Denise. And unfortunately, one of the last memories she had before that demise was her mother looking at her while she was burning and not really helping. In Mary's slight defense, she has a fear of death and a fear of fire, so she doesn't handle that type of stuff well, even though this was her baby and her only surviving child. Well, one of her only 2 surviving children that was burning alive. So Denise started to harbor even more resentment towards her mother for that one. And they had a gigantic blowout fight. It was really bad. Everything just came to a head. Denise said some things, Mary said some things, and at the end it led to Mary slapping Denise because she said something that was completely out of line, although somewhat true. Unfair to Mary, but some things were a little true. And Denise ended up running away early in the morning to Windenburg, where she was kind of taken care of for a few months by her Aunt Thelka and her cousins Elena and Joan. And eventually she came across a wealthy spellcaster in Willow Creek who was struggling to have children of his own because his wife was older than him. And she eventually agreed to be his official mistress. And so these are the children they've had together. They're not married or anything like that. She doesn't want to be married. The wife knows that she's an official mistress and is perfectly fine with it. Denise is literally okay now. She's stuck with irreversible burn scars from everything and is completely no contact with her mother, though she sends letters to Amice and Annabelle occasionally, checking in on her nieces and nephews. But yeah, she does not speak to her mother at all, but at least she's in a place where she's pretty much taken care of. Parker, even though this is a mistress, he treats her very well. He treats her like an equal, and it's great. So they've had 3 kids, Andrew, Catherine, and David. Andrew was our firstborn son. He passed away pretty young from SIDS. Catherine and David are infants, and they'll be aging up in the next episode to toddlers. So I'm really hoping that they survive because she only got 3 pregnancies and she gets 1 more after this one. So I'm hoping she has kids that survive because I'm really interested in how Denise as a mother will be. And also just want more side household kids for this generation. Amis has a few more. She's pregnant right now. So this is her 6th pregnancy. She gets 8 in total. So once she gives birth, she gets 2 more pregnancies and then she's done. Next up, Stephen. I'm not gonna go too deep into Stephen, but long story short, he and Amis are still married. Not Amis, Jesus, that's crazy. That's his niece. He and Alina are still married. Because he's polyamorous, he went off on his own and got married to 2 other women. And yeah, all of his, he has some surviving children, being Osbert, who, you know, if little Stephen dies, Osbert will be our next head of household, which would be unfortunate considering he's cursed. Yeah, that he's possessed specifically. But Osbert, Maurice, Conrad, Alondra, Laura, Richard, and Sarai. Richard and Sarai are the 2 littlest ones. Once again, I'm not going to go too deep into their lore. Honestly, the latest side household update was the previous episode, so you can find out what's going on here. But long story short, the Smiths are way more interconnected than I ever thought they would be. So yeah, these are his kids, and I'm not gonna add their kids to the thing because that's too much to take care of, especially because a lot of them have children out of wedlock, and I don't even know some of them, and it's too much. Nasir has been dead for a very, very long time, and he was survived by Elena, Walter, Joan, Philippa, Millicent, and Hilda. Walter did not survive much longer, so Nasir, I'm not sure if he was cursed or what, but he could not have a surviving son to save his life. I thought that Walter would. Walter got close, and then he passed away in a tragic carriage crash that caused him to drown or something like that. So he only has his 5 surviving daughters, and they all have a lot of kids. I think are any of y'all married? No, actually. Every single one of them is unmarried and has at least 2 kids. At least 2. But Thoka's still alive, and Thoka just recently got remarried, but that's not to a Smith, so it's not on the family tree. Nura is still alive. She's actually a little older. I might update that picture at some point, but she's still alive. She's partnered still with Christina, and I apparently forgot to put that on the tray, but I'll put it on there at some point. Christina's still alive, they're partners, and all of their children are grown, so they're just growing old together. Her surviving children are Lycia and Philip. Margaret passed away at kind of similar to what Grogo and Sybil went through. When Philip and Margaret were aging up into teenagers, Margaret passed away. I can't remember exactly how, but her 2 surviving children are Philip and Lycia. Philip has some of his own dramas going on. He's got a lot of stepchildren and 1 biological child, and him and his wife's relationship is a little strange. And Lycia, things are looking up a little bit for her. She's gotten married recently, but she did have a child out of wedlock. But she married a relatively wealthy man, although an older one. And, you know, it's not the life she envisioned, but I think she's taking what she can get, and it's not bad, honestly. It's just different from what she imagined. Marjorie and Mahe are still alive. They're adults now, so they'll be turning into elders soon after Nura at some point. So they had Avelina, Gabriel, Avery, and Susanna. Avelina died when she was aging up into a child, which is unfortunate. But Gabriel, why does it say Gabriel's dead? Gabriel is not dead. I don't know why it says Gabriel's dead. But Gabriel and Avery are their surviving children. And Avery has a lot of drama and stuff going on. If you've missed the previous side household update, long story short, that son, Richard, that Stephen has, is actually Stephen's stepson and Avery's biological son, who Avery had with Gabriel's stepdaughter. So Yeah, like Gabriel's stepdaughter is like the same age as them. It's his stepdaughter, but like technicality, Gabriel didn't raise her or anything like that, and so she doesn't consider Avery an uncle. But still, you know, Richard is being raised by his stepfather slash great uncle, and Avery did technically have a child with a step niece. So it got weird, and it's still weird. But Avery's also married. He did that out of wedlock. He cheated on his wife. Gabriel, slightly less complicated relationship actually. His wife recently died. He's got a new wife and a son, and he's rich as hell, to be honest. He's chilling. Susanna, I told Marjorie and Mahe not to have more kids, and it made them infertile. They got pregnant anyway and recently had a daughter named Susanna. That's it. She's just a toddler. She's adorable though. I love her. Ivo. Unfortunately, Ivo did pass away. So his first wife, Maud, passed away during childbirth, giving birth to his first child, Chaya, who also passed away recently when she was turning into a teenager. Ivo then remarried this lady named Heather a few years later, and then they had a son named Aslak. Heather and Aslak are still alive, but Ivo died on his, I believe it was his young adult birthday. Yeah, I think it was his young adult birthday. So he's been gone for a while, which makes me feel really bad. I was really looking forward to his life with Maud specifically. But for now, we have Aslak and Heather. Don't really care much about Heather. Aslak ages up next episode, actually, so be on the lookout for that one. And if he passes away, that will be the complete end of Ivo's bloodline, which makes me really sad. So I'm hoping Aslak at least survives long enough to continue Ivo's legacy. I don't know. I also kind of want him to potentially get married to one of his cousins, because the game doesn't consider them cousins, so they can get married, and I think it'd be a really fun, like historically accurate, quote unquote, twist for some of the cousins to intermarry once the game doesn't consider it incest. Right? And by the cousins, I mean not like these first cousins, that's weird, but like these second or third cousins, they're not considered family. So I kind of want him to get with Agnes or Albretta at some point, but that's all assuming he survives and slash they want to get together. The girls have longer to age up than he does, and he's most likely going to end up getting married in between that time, but a girl can dream. A girl can dream. And yeah, that is the update. Very quick overview, more than an update, but still. I think it's quick and to the point. I didn't write descriptions for the Sims or anything like that, but I think at some point, little by little, I'll go through, and for all my dead Sims, I'll go back and write a more detailed description of their life. But yeah, it'll definitely be very loose. You'll probably have to keep up with the series to actually get to know the Sims a bit more. But that said, I did say in the previous recap that one thing I'm going to do in my recap videos is go over my what ifs. So like my plans that I had planned, obviously, but didn't really happen because my Sims kept dying or other things kept getting in the way. So I didn't have any plans for Mary. Sorry, not Mary. I didn't have any plans for Alice because she was already old and she carried out all of her plans. So good job, Alice. You're amazing. But I did have some dramatic plans planned out for Amir. With Amir, I planned on there being a bit more drama between Amir, Mary, and Stephen. If you're new, Mary and Amir have an arranged marriage, but they're not in love. Amir is emotionally abusive at worst, neglectful at best, you know? So he was not a very good husband. He took care of her, made sure there's food on the table and stuff, but like everything else she was completely on her own for. He cared about their children more than her, so at least he cared about somebody in the family. I was scared he wouldn't, considering he murdered his little sister. But anyways, later down the line, Stephen, who is Amir's youngest brother, slash the brother Amir gets along least with. Amir doesn't like weakness, and he considers Stephen and Mary to be weak, which is why he treats them the way he treats them. But Stephen fell in love with Mary. So I was going to have Amir kind of catch on to the fact that something happened between Stephen and Mary. And he was going to go to Stephen a little later in the night, confront him and just challenge him to a bit of a spar. Not really a duel, but a spar. Obviously, Amir was going to win that spar because Amir is a trained knight, so, you know, Stephen's not winning that one. But Amir was essentially going to threaten him and tell him to stay away from Mary, not because he loves Mary or anything like that, but he considers this almost like stealing something that's his, right? So he was going to be a lot more possessive with Mary and a bit more at odds with Stephen, and just essentially threatened to kill him, you know, telling him, if you do something, I will, like, if Mary ends up pregnant and it's not my child, I will actually kill you. Like, I will end your life, right? And he was going to allude to the fact to Stephen that it wouldn't be the first time he's killed a sibling. So Stephen was going to catch on that Amir had something or another to do with Nura's death back in the day. So obviously that didn't happen. So Mary and Stephen have no clue that Amir killed Nura. Neither does Nura, obviously. So Amir ended up taking that to the grave one way or another. But I did plan on them having a bit of a sword fight with Stephen ending up on his ass essentially and threatened by Amir. So Mary and Stephen were going to just kind of be extremely shaken by that entire thing. Also planned on Amir and Mary having some more kids, but clearly that didn't happen. So yeah, Humphrey. As we remember, Humphrey was our previous heir before Grogo, and as he grew up, we realized that he was going to struggle to take care of the household because he was untalented. He didn't really have any actual skills. And so in order to try to make his father proud, because Amir put a lot of pressure on him, in order to try to make his father proud, he was going to try to uphold the Smith legacy in a different way. So he was going to try to do it through amounts of children. Because he was not really skilled at, you know, literature or art or fighting, he just was rather untalentless. He was going to try to uphold the legacy by having a bunch of kids, right? And he was going to go after he had a secret lover, not really necessarily a partner or anything, but he had a lover who was trans. So, and he was very attracted to that person. Because that person was trans, they could technically get married and get pregnant. So that person was secretly trans. Only Humphrey knew that they felt and identified as a man. Humphrey saw no problem with it, Humphrey himself being gay. So he was going to start a relationship with that person and they were just going to start having kids. And I considered him potentially having a secret, I almost said mistress, but that's not really, that's the male version of a mistress. Having a secret male lover on the side, right? And whether or not that ended up becoming public or not, who knows, but he was about to just start pushing out kids, right? And most likely would have led to the family falling. I think the family was destined to fall around this time anyways, but I think it would have fell faster and harder under Humphrey. Grogo, I think Grogo would have done a good job. He just died so young that he didn't really get to make much of a difference. I think if Grogo was still alive, they would probably still be living the way they used to before the fall. But I don't know, the economic fall wasn't too bad of a thing. They're still technically gentry, they're just pretending not to be because they sold their entire house and now they're living like peasants again, which they haven't had to do since like Gen 2, early Gen 2. So yeah, that was my plan for Humphrey. Obviously I didn't really get a chance to even flesh it out even more. Humphrey passed away the same day as his father. Well, same episode, quote unquote, same day, quote unquote, but like in my head, weeks apart because each day is 3 months. So it had to have been some weeks apart. And once his father passed away unexpectedly, the pressure of having to take care of the family and do the things he knew he would never be able to live up to finally got to him, and he ended up taking his own life, unfortunately. So that's how that went. But that was my plan for him. We was about to have a bigger family tree. He was about to be pumping out kids, bro. Sybil was going to be our female knight of the family because she took after Amir quite a bit. But that did not happen because she passed away at age 13 as a teenager. But she was going to be the knight of the family and be the protector, like physically as well, of Amis, because she knows what it's like to grow up with these blue skin and everything. But Sybil did not struggle nearly as much as Amis did. So Sybil was going to be her protector. Like the type of protector that Amis needed, that Mary couldn't be. Amis is still alive, so that doesn't matter. Denise is still alive. I thought she was gonna die, I'm not gonna lie to you. I already told you about Stephen and my plan for him. I don't know if I was gonna have Amir actually kill him or not, but I know Amir was going to put the fear of God in him, for sure. Like, Amir was going to legitimately hurt him and show how crazy and psychopathic he actually was. I'm sure Stephen knows that his brother is not right, but he was gonna feel it that day. So, unfortunately, that did not occur. I didn't have any plans for Nasira, Thelka, or any of their kids or anything. Yeah, my side households I didn't really have plans for. Nura, I actually did have a plan for. I say right after that previous sentence. It's not necessarily a plan, but I had some backups. So I was going to... that section of time where we didn't know whether or not Philip would even be born or survive. For those of you who don't know, Nura is in a secret gay relationship with her best friend slash current lover, Catherine, who I'll add to the family tree at some point. And she went to go work for her, quote unquote, under the guise of being a nanny, but actually they ended up starting a secret relationship. Catherine's husband at the time found out and basically threatened them. He was like, I don't care what y'all do, I just need a son. I need a son to carry on it, because Catherine also was struggling to have sons. They just kept having girls. Nura had one son. That son died. She got one more chance to have a son, and luckily he's still alive and outlived his father, so she and Catherine are both safe. But if something had happened to Philip before he could reach his teenage years, and Armando got upset, actually, I couldn't figure out what exactly I wanted to do as like their punishment, because during that time period, infidelity was a big no-no, especially from women. So women who, you know, were accused of being adulterers, and men, you know, usually women and men would be imprisoned, perhaps paraded around the village or the city and humiliated, at worst murdered, you know, or physically harmed in some way. And as for lesbian relationships, the same thing. Imprisonment at best, death at worst. There were records of like lesbians being burned alive and stuff like that. So I actually was going to make a wheel, because I couldn't decide what Armando was going to push for or what the king was going to say. Armando doesn't get a say. It'd be up to the lord or the king at that point. And I was going to have a wheel of like, what punishment do they get? I was going to have exile. Them being exiled from Willow Creek, or like their kingdom that surround it. They'd have to run away to Oasis Springs. One part of the will was going to say maybe Nura and Catherine murder Armando, right? So his death looks like an accident, and then they can say Nura is there to help Catherine with the rest of the children, so she's not left alone or something like that. There's going to be imprisonment, death, or just completely running away, going off the grid, probably escaping to... I think Oasis Springs would be a little close, but if not Oasis Springs, then probably Sulani. I'm saying Oasis Springs a lot because in my gameplay, Oasis Springs is considered the lawless land, so it's a kingdom or like a piece of land that's not connected to any of the kingdoms. So it's overrun, but that's where people who experience hardships and are just different, who would not survive in an actual kingdom, go. But it also means that there is a lot of criminals included, because there's not necessarily a justice system, lords, knights, or anything to protect people. So it's a rough place, but it's also a very free place. And so yeah, those are going to be the options on the wheel. And then we were going to spin the wheel together on, while I record, I'm going to sit on stream. I don't stream. I was going to spin the wheel together while we were all recording and watching and seeing what happens, and then going from there. So I'm not exactly sure what would have happened to Nura, because the will never got made, because Philip was born and he survived. So yay, go Philip. Philip has no clue that he saved his mother's life, and well, to him, Catherine is also his mother. So he has no idea he saved his mom's life, you know? But yeah, so Nura's is going to be the most interesting. So a part of me is kind of sad that I didn't get that super dramatic moment, but then the other part of me is just really happy, because I didn't want Nura to die. I just like drama because I'm chaotic. Marjorie and Mahe, I had no plans for them. They were chilling. Ivo, I had no plans for him besides more children, and that didn't happen. I really wanted a lot of Ivo children, and he was going to become like a super famous painter. He was already doing good. He was like renowned throughout the village, but I was going to have him like get opportunities to paint portraits of like nobilities and stuff like that, but that didn't happen. And yeah, those are my plans. Honestly, Amir and Humphrey were my biggest plans because they were supposed to take up Gen, was this 4 and 5 of the, it was supposed to go throughout generations. So that's why when they died, I was like, oh, so many plans went down the drain because this was supposed to, their dramas were going to cross generations and everything. It was crazy. But yeah, that's it. That's the recap, a very quick recap. I'm trying to make them a bit quicker instead of 40 minutes because that, you know, most of y'all are watching the series anyway, so it doesn't need to be that long. But yes, this link for the family tree will be in the description below so you can all watch and see. I'll update it as often as possible. It probably won't be episodically, but just keep in mind. So if you're not caught up to the series, or if you're watching this later, if you're not caught up in general, I wouldn't recommend clicking on the family tree links. I'll probably go back and add it to a lot of my older videos as well. Add this link to a lot of my older videos. But with that all said and done, the recap is over. And now we have 25 more years to the 1400s. And I'm so excited. I'm really excited. There's only like, how many events in this this century? There's 2 world events left in this century, a tax thing and a peasants revolt. I get one more spin to see, I get one more dice roll, sorry, to see if any of my male sims go to war or not. And that's it. So three major world events and then whatever happens to the actual family. But yeah, thank you all so much for joining and thank you all for following along. 75 years in The Sims 4. Like, this is, how many episodes do I have in my thing? This is a lot of episodes and you guys have been supporting me from the beginning, so I really appreciate it. But yeah, thank you all so much. I can't wait for us to go and journey through the rest of the drama of the Smith family in the next few episodes, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye.